So some of you guys may know, I've currently been undergoing a research project over the past couple weeks, and because it's still in the preliminary phases of my project, a lot of the things that I have to currently do and some of my main responsibilities right now is really just to dive into the literature and kind of learn about what's going on in the field. Now, traditionally, a lot of the times when I need to go to documentation and reading and perhaps note-taking, I'd either opt for one of two options. Either using Google Docs, it's a cloud storage that I think every single student now is familiar with, or using handwritten notes on my iPad, which is what I normally do for school. But for some reason, this doesn't really seem to work with research. I say this because in research there's just so many different types of documents and things that you have to keep track of, and it's really not the most convenient thing to have a Google Doc open or a spreadsheet open that you can see your entire project overview all in one page. And I've been trying to find a solution to this for quite a while now until I stumbled back on this. So Notion has been one of my favorite applications to use since I discovered it back in Ali Abdal's channel, and I've used it since to do some notes, create my personal website, create a personal home, but I've yet to try it out for research. And during this past couple weeks, I've been kind of modifying that and kind of bringing everything that I have over from my traditional Google Doc format all the way to Notion. Today, I want to share with you guys my Notion template for how I organize my research timeline and how you too can kind of take inspiration from this and extrapolate it to your studies, your research projects, or even just managing all your tasks and readings. Hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so welcome here to my Notion home. And this is where a lot of the magic goes down in terms of my workflow and everything. And this here is actually my home page that I built in the beginning of 2021, which includes some of my goals that I have here, some brain dumps, so that's like my journaling that I tried to do in the beginning of the year, a budget, contact, relationship manager essentially, book club, and then a lot of stuff here that I'm currently working on, whether that be YouTube, my career and everything, and also the stuff in the lab. And so this is really interesting, and actually the YouTube portion and a lot of the stuff I've actually kind of got off Notion for the past couple of weeks essentially, and I kind of tried to minimize the amount of applications I use, so I kind of reverted over to Apple Notes. But just coming over here just feels, something about Notion just feels like home, no pun intended there. But Notion has been something I've used for schoolwork, to create this home page and also my website, and I created a separate video about that over there. So if you're interested in kind of checking that out, I'll link it up below. But today I just want to focus on laboratory. So this is where I'm currently working on my my immunology research project, and this is the home page for it. And it's not much to it yet, just because I just recently transferred everything yesterday actually. But I have started a lot of stuff here, and I just wanted to really quickly kind of break it down to you and kind of show you what that's like. And so starting off here, we have the project aims. I've kind of narrowed it down and hit a bunch of stuff just for just to be cautious of like IP position and everything. So this is the things that I'm going to be working on. I have an idea dump section over here, task dump. So this is like some couple things that I wanted to work on. And then I have the results and analysis section that I haven't had anything here because my experiments are still in the works. And then down here in the bottom is a kind of calendar where I planned out the general days of when I'm going to be starting some of the bigger experiments and everything. And so I'm going to be trying to stick to this. It's really, really helpful. But the most helpful thing about this would probably be right over here in the literature. So I have a couple of views here. Let me just start off with all. And so right here I have a bunch of different papers that are on my to read list. Today I just worked through a paper, and so that one is called reference later. And so this one, let me just use this as an example. I have the title of the paper here. I have the link to the paper. I have a couple of topics that I can choose from a drop-down menu. A read date, the date that I read it, and if it's completed or not, and if I want to reference it later. So this here, I have a big executive summary of this paper right up here. I have a couple of sections regarding the paper, and everything here is in a toggle form. So that kind of hides a lot of the details and things, and these are all of my notes that I made on this paper. This is a pretty important paper and had a lot of great things I'm taking away from it, and so that's why I kind of went a little bit more in depth into the things that I'm learning about in regards to this paper. But essentially this is all it is, and all I have to do, so let's just say, sorry, let me just go back to the to read section. And so to read section has all these dates, and I can organize it by date, by topic, anything that I want. But let's say I'm interested in reading this one here. All I have to do is just click annotating papers, and there is already a template that just comes up that I've pre-designed basically, and that's the way that I'll be kind of making my notes on papers. And so usually the way I make notes on papers is either by having a couple of questions that I want first. So I could ask a couple of questions and try to see which papers kind of give me the answers to those questions. Or if I skim through a paper and it's really, really important, then I'd really want to just make sure I write down a lot of different parts of the paper, try to really get down all the details that I'm trying to say. But usually that really doesn't happen unless I see a paper that's very, very, very relatable to the project that I'm currently working on. So that's been where I've been spending the majority of my time right now, just within the literature and kind of going through all these different papers. Some of these things, like I'm reading 4 of these papers tomorrow, but all these things I kind of know exactly what I'm looking for with these papers. So it's not like a full, deep dive into that one paper, trying to dissect every single detail like the one I did today. But just using this as an example, all these kind of categories essentially are super, super customizable. And one of the things that I really noticed compared to like when I used Google Docs and everything was how here you can kind of categorize it and then sort them in a way. So I could like sort this by the ascending topics, I could sort it by date, I could sort it by like keywords even, and also just being able to classify them as done. So if I click done, then they just kind of disappear from this section. They all end up in something else. And so that's just a great system to have, and I really appreciate Notion for having that kind of characteristic available. And so I just want to jump over to 2 more sections here. Not going to take long on this because I don't want to be extending this video any longer than it has to be. But this here is a link to a bunch of the protocols that I have. And so, again, one of the great things about Notion is having different views. I haven't set up the different views yet, but right now I haven't had too many more intense protocols. I'm kind of still developing the protocol since it's the first of its kind within my lab. So I've just been going through that quite a bit, and just using this essentially to do the exact same thing, just having these categories, pre-made templates. It's been very helpful. And same thing with meeting notes. And so imagine, like with all these things, imagine having separate folders for each one, but now I only essentially have 3 of them, with these 3, and I can kind of categorize into everything, any small bit of piece. And so what I have here is just my meeting notes, either with my supervisor or with people outside of the lab that I'm getting advice from. And if there are tasks to still be done, then I would just keep this box checked so that I know that I have to revisit that. And one really great thing about Notion is that you can actually integrate this and kind of send a reminder to you on your Notion notifications, essentially, that there is something that you still need to look at. You can also do these synced blocks, which is a new feature in Notion that I just recently tweeted about, just kind of saying how you can put something in one page. Let's say I have a note here and it can still show up like over here. And so that's been super helpful, something I'm trying to use, kind of playing around with it, still trying to figure out what the best place to put this in. But essentially here it is. This is my entire workflow for my research project here on Notion. I just want to say though, this is something that you can easily build. It doesn't take too much time or anything. But if you're interested, shoot me an email. I will link my email in the description. I can actually share the link with you. I don't want to dump it in for everyone, but I can share the link with you for this template if you're interested in looking at it. And so that being said, I just want to say thank you very much for tuning in to today's video. If you're interested, again, this can be used for anything, not just research. It can be used for, you know, your school, organizing your life, your goals, your task manager even. And so I really recommend Notion. This is not sponsored. I'm actually hoping that one day Notion will be happy to do something with me because I just love it, and I really love the innovation that's going into this platform. And so yeah, it's a free platform, by the way. You can sign up with a work email. I'm using my U of T email. And even then, if you're still a high school student, you can still use your Gmail or whatever, and you can still have a lot of the functionalities that Notion has without cost. So that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is a different kind of video, something more of a tutorial type with some of the applications that I'm super excited to use. And so hopefully this has showed you a little bit about what I like to do on a typical day within the online laboratory. And so I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care. Goodbye.